All right, this is meant to be actually a day two, but it's meant to be a day two, but it's the same day as the day one. So I don't know what you call it. Experiment has failed at the first hurdle. Okay, I'm going to talk about one subject and I'm going to just try and get my point across. Inclusion. I have an issue with inclusion, and I want to explain what that's about. I believe in inclusion. I believe we're stronger and better when we're more diverse. However, I have issue with the term. And in fact, when I set up my business, I banned it from the website, and there was a really good reason for it. Why I have problem, and actually why I banned inclusion from my website when I set up a business specifically looking for how to tackle the massive unemployment or underemployment of neurodivergent talent. And the reason is this. When you talk about inclusion, it tends to get put in a very particular bucket. I believe there's just I don't just believe, I know it to be the case, that there is a very strong business case to be tapping into divergent pools of talent. And when you talk about inclusion, it does a couple of things, actually, to be completely straight, because I've sold to businesses my whole life. When you talk about inclusion, you're going to end up in a very different department with very different people with very different agendas. When you talk about DEI and inclusion, you will be talking to people whose responsibility it is to, in the best case, genuinely grow a diverse workforce. In the worst case, tick a box for a diverse workforce. There's two facts driving my thinking, and I'm absolutely convinced it's the case. One, we know neurodivergent talent is ideally suited, and there's tons of research, ideally suited for the needs of the modern economy, okay? Technology's changed the landscape. The way people expect to operate and work has fundamentally changed. And neurodivergent people offer an exceptional set of skills and challenges. They offer exceptional set of skills for the modern economy. They are massively underemployed. And when we talk about growing an economy, and when we talk about innovation, and we talk about creativity, and we talk about competing on the world stage, for example, within the UK, like this pool of talent is exactly what we're talking about. Many businesses recognize this now. This is a core fundamental business issue. It is not an issue of inclusion. It is an issue of business savvy, of economic growth, of innovation. The driver is not inclusion. The driver is economic sense. We have a huge pool of this population who are underemployed and unemployed. It's not that we should be including them, it's that we should be prioritizing them. I don't understand why no one's talking about this. I've seen tons of conversation and media attention, and I can tell you when the Today program ran a 1-week series on economic growth off the back of a government white paper that was specifically talking about people who are on long-term sick. I was shocked to hear, while the government was focused on economic growth and on understanding and unpicking the challenges that we face with people on long-term sick and underemployment and so on, that this wasn't a massive part of that narrative. I want to talk about it because no one else is, and I'm hoping other people will come in and join, because I genuinely think this is one of the biggest untapped sources of productivity and innovation and creativity, exactly what we need. The science is there, the research is clear. We like to talk about people who don't fit the mold, like entrepreneurs, and we like to reflect back on them, people who dropped out of education, and we talk about them kind of like in a quite lofty way. We hold them in high esteem. But I think the reality is, when we talk about divergent people on the ground, like in reality, in our schools, in employment, we talk about them in a completely different way. I have issue with that. And I believe that different way that we talk about them is we start talking about them in terms of inclusion and in terms of diversity. I have a problem with that because I want to talk about the people who are struggling but should be contributing in the same kind of lofty way that we talk about the people who've succeeded, the people who have already made it. These kind of rule breakers and entrepreneurs and people who don't fit in a box and, who can't be defined, who blur the boundaries, who innovate, who do all of this stuff. I want to be talking about it in the present tense, about the people now who are not having their needs met, but also who should be meeting the needs of this country right now. The conversation I think is most important right now is to be talking about that. It's something I feel from the bottom of my heart, but I'm curious to know if other people feel the same. I'm up for the conversation. I've often brought up the inclusion topic, and I think it's something that a lot of people feel very protective of, and I understand that. So yeah, I want to hear. I'd like to know, am I on my own? Sometimes I feel like I am.